Hello everyone. My name is Naman Agrawal and I have with me Pranjal Goswami from Superset. We will be hosting the today's discussion for you. Thank you all for joining us on this event and especially for taking out time on this lazy Saturday afternoon. So the topic for our discussion today is what can institutions do to save and win upcoming campus placements in the new COVID-19 world? Please allow me to introduce to our panelists today who have made time for us and agreed to share their viewpoints and plans. Please welcome Professor Amit Karna, Chairperson of Placements at IIM Ahmedabad, Mr. R.B. Molly, Placements Manager at BITS Pilani University. Currently, he's based out of KK Birla Goa campus, and Mr. Sriram Padmanabhan, Director of Career Services at SRM University, Chennai. I thank all three of you for joining us here today. As we speak, we have placement cell members and college administrators from, as I can see the tally, around 843 institutions across the nation who have joined us on this webinar right now through the Zoom call and also through our LinkedIn and Facebook live feeds of this event. So I'll quickly talk a bit about the format of our today's discussion. There will be a list of questions that we are going to cover today, which are centric to the topic, and also a few questions that we have received from our attendees. We will cover the discussion in three sections. One, understanding the current job market scenario. Secondly, what can institutions do in this scenario? And third, how can students prepare in this scenario? We will also launch a few polls as we go for everyone to answer. If you have any questions, you can type them in the Q&A icon on your screen below. We will try to answer them in the end. So we'll jump right in and I'll begin. The first question is for you, Professor Karna. We'll talk about the recruiter and job market scenario. Professor Karna, how do you think the job availability is going to be impacted for college graduates in this COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 scenario?
Thank you, Naman and Pranjal, for having me here. It's a pleasure to be a part of this discussion today. Before I answer, just a couple of disclaimers in a way that since we are having placement offers and team members from across different sectors of education, technology, business schools, and so on. Whatever I am sharing is more my view from the business school perspective. Second, also, I think today I am here to share with you more questions I have than answers. So I also would love to hear your questions because where we stand today, we are at lots of uncertainty. So to address your question specifically on sectors, I think, yes, there will be a very varied impact on different sectors. If I was to divide this into, let's say, on one side, there is the impact, the level of impact that some sectors will have, whether high or low, or medium, somewhere in between. And the second one is the length in terms of timeline, how long will the impact be, right? So there will be some sectors I believe will be high and long term, which is like tourism, hospitality, and so on, travel, tourism, hospitality. Some which will be very high impact, but still short-lived, for example, manufacturing. Those are likely to have a high impact, but will not be that, it won't have a very long tail. On the low impact, I think those which are tech-driven organizations are likely to have lesser impact. Some of them will have long time to recover, but many of them are likely to be very low impact and quick recovery, right? So, for example, EdTech, education, technology firms, health tech startups, fintech startups, I believe these are likely to be not just low impact, but also, so I was seeing that some of the top fintech firms like Razorpay, I was just talking to one of the managers this morning, and they actually hired in this lockdown period. They hired for critical positions in the lockdown period. So short impact and low impact and short impact. And then there will be some which are low impact, but will be slightly longer. Let's say the software service firms will still bear the brunt of the high impact on the manufacturing and other sectors.
What are your thoughts on this, Mr. Molly? How do you think is the job availability going to be impacted for engineering students, and what would be the quantum of this impact, and what would be the sectors which will be most hit and the least hit?
Like Professor Karna has already mentioned, there are some sectors which are likely to be hit worst. Some are, may not have any hit. For example, manufacturing in general, automobile, there will be a huge impact on them. But within the next 1 or 2 quarters, things will become to normal. And once things become normal, I think the demand will pick up. And also sectors like e-commerce and edtech are expected to gain directly from the changing scenario, which we have already seen. Like Professor Karna has mentioned, there are a few organizations who hired students in this lockdown. In fact, we also witnessed that at BITS Pilani. So there are a few companies who had come forward, and they're mainly into the software side, automation, or maybe hardware roles, data and business analytics. Yeah. So in addition to that, if you recollect, in the first and second quarter of 2019, manufacturing sector has a little less demand, and with COVID-19, the situation became worsened. I must say this, and within next 1 or 2 quarters, I'm very sure the things will become normal. So chemical, manufacturing, automobile, civil, these are some of the sectors which are hit, and companies which are working on software development, automation, data analytics, business analytics, edtech, all these definitely will gain in a quarter to come. Yeah.
Right. This makes sense. Mr. Sriram, do you concur with these views? And also, can you also tell us a bit more about the impact on the hiring of mass recruitment software companies?
Okay. So first of all, thank you for giving this opportunity to me to share, the platform with all of you. And very warm welcome to all the people who are attending this webinar and listening into this. So before I answer this question, I would like to put in a disclaimer or add a caveat in that what I say is naturally SRM centric. It is from our point of view, the way we view the world, as it were. Just to step back a little and to put things in context, and I think that's important, for people listening into this webinar. We are probably India's largest university in the private sector, and in terms of sheer numbers, we have something like 10,000 students admitted every year. Across the 4 campuses that we have under the umbrella of SRM IST. So at any point in time, there are about 40,000 students studying in these 4 campuses. So some of these things which I share are rather peculiar to our circumstances and may or may not apply to the other universities or colleges. Now, as I see it, and as was pointed out, by one of the earlier panelists very correctly, we are a little, some more time away from a post-COVID world. I think more relevant, it would be to look at it as a post-lockdown, the scenario, the way it will unfold. And while these are still early days, I would like to approach it with a sense of guarded optimism. In that I don't, see this as I don't view this as a doomsday kind of a scenario. It is just that, adjustments will have to be made by the universities, by the institutions, by students, by faculty, in terms of, adjusting and also moving on from there, picking up the pieces, as it were. So that is something which is there on the table for all of us. The second thing is, just to put things in context again, last year, since you asked about, the mass, recruiters, last year we had, the 4 top IT service companies, making the highest number of offers in our campus. Between the 4 of them, they made around 4,400 offers. Now, the good news is that nobody has, come forth saying that, they are going to be backing out or they are going to be withdrawing the offers. So
Right.
that I take is a huge, a positive. But what I guess will happen is that the onboarding, because in a normal year, typically, given our huge size, for the succeeding year's batch, we start the placement process the previous year. So typically, we should have begun the placement process in July for the graduating class of 2021. Now, what will happen is in this scenario, there would be some staggering, which would take place in terms of onboarding of the students.
Right.
So what should have taken about 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, may perhaps take a little longer. So that may have a cascading effect in the next year's recruitment season. The way I look at it.
Right. I completely agree with that. So as Mr. Molly had also mentioned that from his findings, basis the interactions with the different companies in different sectors, the demand will be lower in the next 2 quarters, but then again pick up. So Professor Karna, coming at it from a B school perspective, and not precisely for IIM Ahmedabad, but other B schools who sort of continue their placements for a period of 2 or 3 quarters or for a longer period, do you think that there should be people should be ready, the institutions should be ready for a shift in campus placements timeline, and they should probably start a bit later, and also be prepared that the hiring for 2021 pass out batch may continue until a little late, starting of Q2 of 2021. So should people be prepared for a changing campus placements timeline?
So, well, question, and again, I don't have a specific answer as we stand today, because the admission lists, the interview, the offer letters for the MBAs who will come in has just gone out in the first week of May. But frankly, we don't know whether we'll be able to start on 5th of August. Right? So currently we have given a date that students will come in on 29 July, the first years, and the classes will start on in first week of August. That's the current outlook that we have. And of course, this is dependent on the undergrad last year's final semesters getting over by 21st of July, 20th of July, or end July. So if that moves out, I don't know, what will be the new joining date. That said, usually when the students come in, they generally come in mid-June. And then we start the summer placement interview process across different colleges between let's say September end and November mid, when it happens. And so currently our dates were just before Diwali. We were to go in the first week of November. Because everything has been pushed back, the joining, the completion of the first 1.5 terms, the making of their CVs, it's a whole fresh process, right? We begin, we need a certain time for completing the whole process. So that's where we currently believe that it might get delayed, maybe not exactly the same delay that happens in the joining date. So if the joining is delayed by 6 weeks, maybe by squeezing in some of the weekends, etc., we can maybe squeeze it in and start maybe 4 weeks later. So that's a current view. Because we have another problem, because our term ends, the third term of the first year ends in end of March.
Right.
And if we start, so we are now starting 6 to 8 weeks later, which means even if we end, let's say 4 weeks later, we won't be able to send the students for summer internship before mid-April.
Correct.
So which means my already next year's summer internships are likely to be affected in terms of the duration and so on. Frankly, currently we don't have a view which is very clear on this, mainly because this is a very short process. It starts in September and the whole thing gets over in November, and then the internships actually take place in April, May, and June. So we are also waiting for the firms to get a little free from stabilizing with the post-lockdown the way of working. And maybe once the students come in, probably by end of July, the recruiters are back to their normalcy, we will have to figure it out. What is likely to happen is maybe we might see a lot more disruption in the way recruitment actually happens.
Okay.
So, apart from just the timeline, will they be able to even conduct some events or competitions on campus? I don't know. Will there be pre-placement talks allowed as per the government conditions that we can't gather more than 30 people in a room? We don't know that yet until we see the guidelines closer to maybe August end.
Right. This is interesting that you are saying that we are not even sure about if government will allow to put a lot of students in a particular room to conduct company PPTs and competitions. And maybe most of this will need to move online. So this is very interesting. What are your thoughts on this, Mr. Molly, from an engineering perspective? And so I believe at BITS Pilani, you have placements in 2 cycles, wherein the first cycle starts somewhere in July and ends by December. And there's a second season which again starts in January and goes on for 4 months. So what are your plans on? Do you feel that you will have to slightly delay the kickstart of the first cycle of placements because the demand would rise as we move into 2021?
To answer this question, it's actually too early to comment on. Like Professor Karna said, because we need to first get in touch with all the recruiters, understand if there is any change in the recruitment cycle timeline. For example, for any institute's placement cycle, it's closely related to the recruitment cycle of the organizations. Right. So, for example, if my top 20 product companies are saying me that we can come only in September, we cannot come in August because of the regulations set by the government and from their safety measures from their organizations, I don't think so we'll be able to start the placements in July or August. So that's what I'm trying to say. So it's important to know the recruitment cycles from the organizations, and it's too early to comment on it. Also, particularly in case of BITS Pilani's, we have 2 cycles of placements, and the impact on the onset dates has to be assessed separately for both these cycles. So because for us, why do we have 2 cycles? Because we have a 6 months industry internship where students go to industries to do a 6 months internship and they're not on campus. That's why we do, we organize companies twice in a year.
Sure, absolutely. Mr. Sriram, do you have a preliminary sense from speaking with recruiters that will they try to push ahead or delay their campus hiring cycles slightly by a month or a couple of months or so?
Okay. So now our situation, is a little different from the other 2 institutions, given our size and the scale. So I still remember the date very well. Now for the 2020 batch recruitments, we were going full steam ahead in March. In fact, on March 16th, we took a decision that we would close the institution. So on that given day, we had something like 4 recruiters, conducting their processes. Some were, in the campus, some were doing it online. So now, and interestingly, we managed to convert a few of them, to complete the recruitment processes online in this intervening period. So going forward, I see companies, organizations transiting to virtual recruitment, conducting, in any case, the first level filtration, the aptitude and the technical testing was largely being done online. So now I see that, process being extended in terms of virtual, group discussions or virtual PPTs and even virtual interviews. So I see that happening. And I see, a greater proportion of companies switching to the virtual mode. Now, if you ask me to put a finger on a number, I can't. But there is a trend. There certainly is a trend. Now, again, our recruitment cycle is a little different given our huge size. So what happens is, as I mentioned earlier, we start the process in July for the graduating class of the next year, and it is pretty much a year-long affair, and it goes on till the end of May. Now, this
Right.
year for the graduating class of 2020, we had to suspend it in March, but we are trying to do as many processes online to the extent possible. Now, going forward for the 2021 batch, as I mentioned earlier, we expect this to start a little later because the existing students who have been made offers, have to be onboarded. Only
Okay.
after that will the companies come. So the whole thing would be staggered. It will have a cascading effect. It will get pushed back to that extent. And yes, virtual recruitment is there to stay. What we are doing is augmenting our facilities in terms of technology. So we are trying to build in more of that so that we are ready for it.
Right, right, absolutely. So that makes a lot of sense, and in fact, this is an interesting point that the corporates will first try to complete the onboarding of the 2020 batch students that they have hired, which has already been delayed, and only after that they will be able to start, a full-scale recruitment of 2021 batch. So probably this is going to slightly delay the process a bit, as you say.
But if I may, just a button. Very interestingly, we are getting inquiries, from organizations, typically some IT product companies for 2021 batch. So that those inquiries have started, coming in, and I see that as a positive, as a green shoot.
Sure, absolutely. So this probably makes a point that the institutions should not stop and they should start reaching out to companies at full scale, irrespective of whether they start their hiring now or maybe in a delayed fashion. And as you say, probably IT product companies are the ones that are not stopping with this, and the demand is coming from that side. And yeah, so I concur with this. In fact, at Superset, we have been speaking with a few large organizations in both IT and non-IT sectors, and because they engaged with us to take Superset's help with campus hiring automation. And so a lot of these organizations, they were going to get onboarded for campus hiring in by the month of May, and they have said that they are pushing this ahead by a month or so. So that makes a point that probably the full scale hiring by these organizations are going to start a couple of months later is the sense that we are getting. I completely agree on that. You made a point about your increasing your facilities with technology also, because recruiters are, you've seen that people are doing more online and virtual interviews. So can you tell us a bit more about that, Professor Karna? What are your thoughts on how can institutions leverage technology to be prepared for this changing scenario?
Well, I think technology has been around for managing placements for at least last 3-4 years, right? So we use lots of different tech solutions to ensure the process is seamless for students and for recruiters. We use a lot of technology already for ensuring the integrity of the process, so that things which are just like shortlisting of candidates or scheduling of people and so on, it's already very automated, at least at IMA, that I can tell you of. I think on the interface between the firm and the student, currently the whole process is automated, right from CV till about application, shortlisting, interview scheduling. Whether the interview part will go online for the business school, I don't know. We will have to. If it goes, it will be more of a compulsion than a choice, that it is not being allowed. Because unlike technology school where the students are fairly homogeneous, they have to actually compete first to get in, and then out of 200,000 people, 400 make it. There is not much difference between my best and the worst student, and then getting that nuances out in the interview, which is virtual, might not be that necessary. But well, we are living currently with virtual online sessions as well, right? Which many people are saying are not optimal, but still we need to live with that. So that's my view, that if push comes to shove, we might have to do it, but might not be that delightful for the recruiters and the students side.
Right. So I would also like to hear from that is now a good time for institutions to take their placement cells online and digitize the placements. Before you answer that, Pranjal, can we launch a quick poll on this question, and let's see where our colleges are currently at, and then we can get into answering this question. So there must be a poll on everyone's screen, and please take your time to answer it. So what we are trying to get a sense on is how many placement cells in India are currently already online enabled. And if they're not online enabled yet, if people use Google Forms and mail groups and Excels, or they're partially enabled, wherein people have some internal system or ERP in place, or it's fully enabled, wherein, as you said, as IIM Ahmedabad has, that it's completely digitized online, it's automated process, there's a CRM for company outreach, student profiles are all digital, shortlisting tools are all there in place, and also a facility to be able to take online interviews if needed. I think we have received poll results. Can we go ahead and publish the results for our audience? So as we see that it shows that 43% of the institutions currently use Google Forms and Google Mails. So probably a good time to go digital, you're saying, and some people have 38% have partial systems in place, have an ERP or internal systems, and a good 19% have a full digitization where they have all these tools in place, and definitely this is going to help them in this scenario. So Mr. Molly, coming back to the question, do you think that it will really help placements to go online and digitize their processes at this time? And this will also probably showcase a lot of tangibility of efforts to the students and the parents.
Correct. Yes. Better to digitalize placements to get better results. And having the employers and the students on the same platform is always worthwhile. Many a times, institutes keep sending the CVs to the students, and most of the times the email gets bounced saying that the file size exceeded. If you send more than 100 CVs, 200 CVs, right? So in which case, if you digitize, then, and if the recruiters are also online, it's easy to share it via online, the resumes. And also I suggest for the colleges, if they can use some platforms which aggregates the jobs for the students, especially will be very helpful during the next 2 quarters. And then it also saves more time. Processes can be more hassle-free, right? And also, if some institutes would like to go ahead and do their email campaigning, for example, reaching out to more and more recruiters will be the key for the next year. It's just not only sticking to the organizations which are already coming to the campuses. Institutes also should put effort in reaching out to more and more organizations. And if they can do it in a digital way, it will be very nice. It will be very helpful for them. And they can automate their placement brochure, they can share their placement brochure, they can share their students' profiles online. So when they do it, recruiters also can see what are the things which students write in the CVs. They can also evaluate the colleges accordingly, right? So some colleges would like to also get empaneled, would like to empanel with new organizations this year, right? So how do they do it? So this also helps. This is my view.
Completely agreeable. What are your views on this, Mr. Sriram?
Yeah, I agree with both my fellow panelists, and there is something called, if technology today enables one to use this, it may sound contradictory, but to mass customize. You can customize at a mass level. Now, technology today enables you to do that, to reach out to a wide cross section of people, at the same time to customize your offerings or to customize your message to the extent possible. So technology, my broad answer is yes, technology should be leveraged, especially in the current times. Having said that, this is my personal feeling. I still, you may call me old school, but I still do believe that when it comes to making the final selection, I've been a recruiter, in the past. So at least when it comes to the final selection, I would be more comfortable with at least one face-to-face interaction. So the answer could be to automate, to use technology, to leverage technology, leading up to the final stage where perhaps, you may still want to do a face-to-face interaction.
Agreed. Right. So the interviews has to happen face-to-face. That's what Professor Karna also said. So in case if we don't have that option, we can't do much. But if there is an option, then we should encourage organizations to come to the campus and do the campus hiring.
So now moving on, just quickly touching upon one more point on in this section. Do you think that SMEs are also going to save the day for hiring? If there's a hit with the larger corporates, should institutions be proactive, also reaching out to SMEs? And how can they do that? Would like to know your views, Mr. Moli, on this.
Yeah. If you ask me about SMEs are largely dependent on large enterprises. Now, if it's a B2B, the impact will be a little more. If it's B2C, the impact will be a little less. And it's slightly, again, too early to comment on this because it all depends on their business model. Right? So we have to wait and see how the market will respond to this in the next 1 quarter. As I mentioned, some sectors will pick up and, they may start inquiring with the colleges saying that, we would like to come and, hire your students. Like Mr. Sriram has mentioned, exactly, even we are receiving those queries. But again, when it comes to automobile or any other sectors, so currently they are, evaluating their requirements for the next year. They are waiting for the government to come back with, their recommendations and other things. And recently 20 lakh crore has been also announced by government towards COVID. Most of the MSMEs also might take some advantage out of that, right? So we need to wait for 1 more quarter.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts on this, Mr. Sriram? Do you think that institutions should actively start reaching out to SMEs upcoming placement season?
The short answer is yes. Now, how do we engage with SMEs? Frankly, we'll have to, try out imaginative approaches. And again, I wouldn't like to, classify, put them everybody as one single tag of SMEs. Now we'll have to look at, as Mr. Moli rightly pointed out, SMEs in which sector. Now, certain sectors are greatly impacted, certain sectors are positively impacted. Now, to my mind, if you ask me, the automotive and the downstream, the auto component manufacturers, the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 suppliers, are all quite impacted. So that may take a longer time to recover than those in other sectors who say maybe somebody who is in the healthcare or in health equipment. So an SME which is manufacturing healthcare disposables maybe in a far better position than some other SME in some other sector. So it is not a simplistic answer of one SME size fits all. So one would have to take a more nuanced approach to this whole thing. But the short answer is yes, we need to engage more with SMEs and to see how to make the graduates employable in SMEs. It's also a question of expectations, meeting expectations from all parties.
Correct. Agreed.
Right, absolutely. So now that we have covered the first 2 sections, let's move on to the third one, which is a very key section. That how should students prepare for this scenario? Professor Karna, what are your viewpoints on what can be a blueprint for students to prepare better to increase their job prospects in this scenario?
Well, this I believe there is not just the students, but also the institutes play a very critical role in what kind of students they prepare, right? Fortunately, or rather unfortunately for some, but fortunately for others, the second part, where what does the institute really provide as an input, can't be changed overnight, right? So one thing that we have been constantly thinking is that whenever such recessions happen, and we have seen earlier in 2008, in 2002, when these recessions happen, there is obviously a very strong flight towards quality. So, just look at yourself. If you have 3 options now, you will cut down on your consumption and consume which is a better quality, right? So that's how it will also happen in the job market. And there will be an obvious flight towards high quality. So which means that the impact will be tougher on institutions which do not have their current offering, which is in tune with the market. So, which is that the institutions, it's a wake-up call for those who have been not restructuring the programs to do it. We do it every 2 years, so that is one good thing which will hopefully pay off this year. I think on the student side, of course, the kind of topics and the kind of electives that you take, the kind of skills that you will put forth to the recruiter will be key, in the sense that today recruiters want people who can deal with uncertainty, who can deal with volatility, can trigger their thinking towards the changing scenarios on almost in a flash of a second. So smart thinkers, quick decision makers, people who are able to take the companies from somewhat analog to a digital business model. Companies will look for people who are highly productive. The whole notion of cost cutting is going to take a new form where I don't think people will stop recruiting or people will start paying lesser, but definitely they would start expecting more from the employees. So you talk to whoever is working from home, the number of working hours have increased. It has not decreased, right? So the likelihood of definition of productivity changing is very high. The way people will be evaluated will not be on the usual how much did you score or how much am I paying you, but what is the value that I get out of this resource is going to be at the core of any decision of a firm. SMEs, in my view, are unlikely to be actually hiring more. They don't come to IMA that much. But at the same time, when I'm looking to them, when I'm talking to them, recruitment is the last thing on their mind. Right now, they are struggling with managing the herd right now at their own end. So, but when they come, if they get value for money, they will come, right? If they're getting smarter people, because they know that not many people are coming to recruit, so their choice set will increase. Their bargaining power in that way will increase, and therefore they are going to, evaluate more strictly every CV that they get, because they can hire less, but they would then want to hire the best quality. Therefore, the competition on the student side is likely to increase, and students, while they are staring at an opportunity, I think they need to start veering towards what we say at IMA, that don't look for a job, look for a career, and make your opportunities which help you in building a long-term career in that sector or organization, rather than immediately looking for what is a CTC and what is the other things that I'm getting immediately.
Right. This is very interesting and very informative. Do you also think that institutions should do something to manage the expectation of along with this as well?
So I think the structural reforms take a few years to come through in an academic curriculum. So if you had done that a few years ago, you will benefit. On an immediate basis, I think engaging more with the industry might be a better way, getting more guest speakers to make sense of. It's very important for the institutions to make their faculty, the teachers, the professors, extremely relevant to the contemporary times. Give them time to interact with the industry, give them time to do research, to bring the more relevant stuff into the classroom rather than just the textbooks that has been going on for years now. So that's becoming more and more relevant I'm just sharing what all things we are currently doing as IMA.
Yes, this is very helpful. What are your thoughts on this, Mr. Molly? How can students prepare better to increase their prospects of landing a job?
First thing is they need to have sense of clarity, and to obtain that, the placement team should actually, create awareness among students. They need to invite organizations and eminent people from organizations to come and speak the ground level scenario. So if I go and talk to my students might say, yeah, okay, fine. But just imagine if I host a webinar or a Google Meet with 5 companies virtually, and if they can explain them what is the ground level scenario and how important is academic subjects or fundamental subjects or core subjects, I think the students will pay a lot of attention. And then that is the first key metric. And the second one is, like Professor Karna said, I completely agree the competition is going to be extremely high in the next coming year because the employers might cut down on the numbers. So if that happens, then the competition in general will go high among students who are participating during the placements. And then during this time, we have good 2 to 3 months. Summer internships is something which we have witnessed, at least at BITS. 99% of the organizations who have offered summer internship have honored the offers, and all of them are doing virtual internships, which is again a positive sign, which Mr. Sriram was mentioning. 100% it's a positive sign. And then in addition to that, if students can do a good summer internship, if students don't have any summer internship currently, they can do some online certifications. There are so many online certifications which are available free of cost. Some might come with a basic cost. So it all depends on students to students on their economic background. So if they can afford to that, they can utilize this lockdown period for about 2 to 3 months and can pick up this stuff.
Right. Completely agreeable. Can you please share your viewpoints on this, Mr. Sriram?
So in fact, the main points have been covered by Professor, Amit Karna and Professor Mauli. My only, what I can add at this stage is that students need to be much more adaptable and flexible and more realistic in terms of expectations, because as was rightly pointed out, now the market is more skewed in terms of the recruiters. So it's now to use market terminology, it is more a buyer's market than a seller's market. So the sooner students realize that and temper their expectations accordingly, whether the student is from a management school or from an engineering school, this is the reality of the market. So the sooner the students realize that, accept that, then the better for everyone. So I'm not trying to paint a very negative picture, but this is a fact of life that in certain sectors there is bound to be a little bit of a slowdown. To that extent, competition will be that much more fierce. Typically manufacturing. In any case, manufacturing, the jobs were much lower and the competition that much higher. Now it is going to be really fierce for the same manufacturing sector job. So and the same, I guess, applies to a larger extent even for IT product, or even for that matter for IT service companies. So the thing is, now all bets are off the table. Now you have to be prepared, you have to be nimble, you have to be flexible, and you have to go beyond the textbook.
Can I
and also to add to what Sriram said, there is an uncertainty in the job market. So students has to sign up for those companies, who will honor the offers. They, rather than becoming choosy towards pay package or location or other things. So that is something which placement unit can provide those set of companies and host a webinar. I'm sure students will gain a lot from them.
Right. So quickly touching upon one of the last pointers on this section, Mr. Mauli, a lot of institutions allow duplicate offers for students to have a couple of offers in a dream category or across multiple categories. So the institutions also explore different placement policies, which in this scenario should only allow for one offer, so that we are able to distribute and optimize the offers more to more students, rather than just they getting accumulated to the topmost students.
First, we need to understand the demand and supply. For that, we need to reach out to the organizations. Suppose, what if there is a huge demand in the software development, automation, and data analytics, and you have lesser students? Right. So obviously, institutes might want to change their policies accordingly. Similarly, what if there are lesser jobs in these sectors? Mm-hmm. So it all depends on the placement policies of each of the college. And right. Yes, I agree that initially, if the placement units can help the students with at least one job, to begin with, and then maybe open the doors to all the students to grab multiple offers, that may be a wiser thing to do. But again, it depends on the placement policies of each and every college.
Right, agree. So I think we have covered the three sections, and now in the interest of time, let's pick a couple of questions. We have been getting hundreds of questions from the attendees too.
Professor Amit, Professor Karna has a question. I think he wanted to say something.
I just wanted to add one thing here, which might be critical for many of the placement cells to realize. And it came out in the last question where we were asking about what should the students do. So if you notice, Mr. Morley expected the students to have clarity. And at the same time, the market is very uncertain. I think it is very unrealistic for us to expect students to have clarity. Students are currently coming out of a lockdown. They don't know whether they had no clarity whether they will make it to the MBA college. Then they have no clarity whether their end sem exams will be over. They have no clarity whether they'll be able to travel, right? So they have no clarity how the process will happen, not happen. In that scenario, to expect the student to have clarity is, utopian. So
my point here is when I say clarity, they need to have an understanding of what job profile they would like to pick up. I'm talking from the undergrad perspective and not from the postgraduate perspective. Yeah. And that
even is undergrad, I think right now they have absolutely lost clarity. I understand it is required, but we need to understand that they have lost clarity. We need to go with that assumption that they have lost clarity. And therefore, I think, for example, we have been, arranging and thinking of doing more on counseling of students, right? So having more professional counseling on, so for example, we don't, at IMA, we will never not have any options for students to choose from offers. Because we don't, our objective is not 100% placement. Our objective is to maximize the fit between recruiter and the students. Now, in that case, I can't tell the student first offer is out. We can always say that, which are the sectors open, and then you choose best out of that. In that, I think the students are also looking for signals, and students are looking for help, either professionally, with an institute, with professional help. So probably it is good time for placement cells to think of what kind of interventions can we have in terms of coaching them, doing workshops on how to make a good choice, how to, rather than expecting them, you have a clarity, the demand is bad. I think it is better to tell them that, well, whatever the demand is, let's help you make a better choice. Because if you sort that part, if you can handhold the students in making better choices, you'll be able to deal with it. So they know that, there are lesser jobs, but you don't want them to take up wrong jobs. Because remember, these are going to be your alumni in the next years. So if you're going to place them wrongly now, they are going to, not reach leadership positions later on, and therefore not help you in recruitment later.
Right.
Agreed.
So it's a trap that I think the placement cells should be wary of and invest into ensuring that the students are not left, out there hanging dry.
Right.
At least for undergraduate students at BITS, we do have a lot of alumni who does counseling at the students level when the students reach the third year. So at least
we should be aware. So we should be aware of the emotional needs of the students more than ever before now.
Correct. Agreed. Yes.
Yes. So in the interest of time, we will pick one question we have received 100 from the audience. So I'm going to read out the question. How to motivate students to join the organization out of their state or country, because parents are not permitting their sons and daughters to move out from their comfort zone, which is their hometown. So will there arise a need for institutions to take care of that as well?
Yeah, and another question on same lines by Mr. Kaushik is that should we also, as placement officers, should we be looking at more local job opportunities? Because students will not be very comfortable, or their parents might not be very comfortable to send them to different states, because now everybody is apprehensive about, you never know when the transportation facilities are going to be barred. So on similar lines, what are your thoughts on that?
So, as in, we will have to look at all stakeholders. It would be parents, government. I think government is likely to be telling us what to do, what not to do, and we need to follow that as well, right? So that's going to be the blanket guideline that one will have to follow. And next comes, see, the way we look at placement cell's role in IIM Ahmedabad is very straightforward. We are a platform between firms on one side and students on the other side. Right? So it's like, an Uber cannot operate if the government doesn't allow. And then once the government allows, then the Uber has to have the drivers log in first and then the passengers log in first, and then it will happen as per the requirement of the passenger and the driver based on the government regulations. So that's something that we are very clear about will also happen on the process. If the government allows, you can travel. If it doesn't, you can't. Within that, we always ask the recruiters to make sure that the students are given enough liberty to choose, make a choice whether they would want to do this, not want to do this, and work to the maximum extent possible with them. Right? We never force any decision on anyone. We always ask people to take their own decision and then, more importantly, own it up. If there is a fallout of the decision, the firm and the student will have to then, bear the fruits of that or the brunt of it.
So I just wanted to add, my perspective on this. Again, this is an SRM perspective. For us, the USP is that we are a cosmopolitan institution in that 65% of our students, come from outside Tamil Nadu, and this is, perceived as a strength by our recruiters. Because when they come for campus recruitment in one location, they get to meet students from all over India, and which is why we draw repeat recruiters. So and again, let us look at this. Look at it this way: students who are joining this year in 2020 are going to be graduating in 2024. So as a parent, I may not want to base my decision on something which is very short term, because end of the day my ward is going to be graduating 4 years hence, and I would like to be optimistic that 4 years hence we would have put this COVID behind us. So I remain an optimist, and my take on this is that looking at it from this perspective, that local college, local jobs is a very, very short-term approach to things.
Absolutely. So I think we have covered most of our topics today on this discussion, and in the interest of time, let's conclude today's session here itself. Thank you, Mr. Mauli, Professor Karna, and Mr. Sriram for coming online and giving us so much information on how to deal with this scenario. A lot of questions may have been left unanswered that we have also received from our attendees around how can institutions engage students remotely, how can parents be kept to increase more confidence, will the CTCs drop this year for the upcoming placements. Since we are running out of time, we'll conclude the session for today here itself, and we will enclose answers to more of these remaining unanswered questions in the handbook on post-COVID placements, which we are going to share with all the attendees within this week. Thank you all for joining us and staying back till the end, and have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you, Naman. Thank you, Pranjal. Thank you, Professor Karna. And thank you, Mr. Sriram.
Thank you, Professor Karna. Thank you, Mauli. And thank you, Pranjal and Naman. Thank you so much.